So we are now bang on 11 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm John McNamara. I'm one of the senior inventors in the IBM Hursley Lab, and I'm here with Callum and Alex. So again, guys, how are you? Are you still okay?
I am still good.
Fantastic. And welcome to everyone that has joined us. We're going to talk today about WESB migration to IIB. And if you've got any questions you want to ask on Twitter, tweet them on the hashtag IIC Hursley, and we'll see them on the feed and we'll answer them as we go. But welcome to joining. So guys, we start off with who you are and what you do at IBM.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Callum Jackson. I work in the Middleware Services Group as an integration solution architect. So going out to our various customers, looking at what problems they're trying to tackle, including Web Series ESB conversions, that's the topic for today, and design the various different solutions using IBM technology.
Fantastic. And yourself, Alex?
Yeah, so I'm Alex Wood, and I work in software development in the IBM Integration Bus product. So I've been in Hursley for a number of years, worked on various middleware things, MQ and Web Series ESB previously.
Marvelous. So you two guys who are maybe waiting on some questions. I'm not speaking. Not putting you on the spot. No. Fantastic. So I understand that WESB going out of service. So do a date for that.
Yeah, so the current releases of Web Series ESB going out of service 30th of April 2018. So it's really time people to start planning for that and preparing for their migration of Web Series ESB.
Fair enough. So what does this mean for WESB customers?
Okay, so from a Web Series ESB customer, obviously they have a number of options in front of them to fulfill their integration needs. So that could be moving towards IBM Integration Bus, which is obviously from an IBM point of view the strategy. And we're trying to simplify that and make that as easy of a transition as it can be. So there are capabilities provided within Web Series. Well, when you have Web Series ESB, you'll have an entitlement to Web Series ESB today. Moving forward, you can then transfer that entitlement to IBM Integration Bus to actually do that. As well as actually transferring your license, though, you will actually have to go through a process of application conversions.
Okay.
So you'll have all your integrations on Web Series ESB. You'll then need to look at converting those to IBM Integration Bus, and we try to provide a number of tools and capabilities to actually make that as straightforward as possible.
Fantastic. In fact, that was going to be my next question, Cal.
Oh, was it? I'm sorry.
You're professional. That's awesome. So, what tools are there out there?
So, in terms of information, first of all, there's quite a bit of information out there. There's the IBM Integration Community, which is a great source of information around IBM Integration Bus, but also around the conversion from Web Series ESB to IBM Integration Bus. So check that out, lots of good stuff on there. We have a knowledge center for IBM Integration Bus, which also has some specific information around this conversion. So check that out too.
Yep.
And we have some conversion tools. So in IBM Integration Bus Toolkit, there's a conversion tool which will take your WebSphere ESB modules, your WebSphere ESB projects, and it will bring them across into IBM Integration Bus applications. So we'll talk a bit more about that, I think, later, but it's there really to accelerate the process of bringing across your applications, your integrations into IBM Integration Bus.
So that sounds marvelous. Yeah. So how much of the conversion migration will this tool do for you? Will it do the whole thing? Or?
So it would be ideal if we simply did a click of a button, convert the whole thing. It does, doesn't it? However, the reality is it's somewhere in the middle. It's how all these things always happen. Yeah. So really the view is to consider a kind of kickstart or an accelerator. It will take your Web Series ESB applications, your libraries, it will turn those then into the corresponding artifacts for IBM Integration Bus. Nice. It will take your individual primitives that you have on the canvas, it will convert those to the corresponding artifacts, which are called nodes in Integration Bus. It will then also look at the individual configuration on those individual primitives. Yep. It will try its best job to actually convert those. It will also look at the maps that you maybe have in XSLTs, for instance, within Web Series ESB, and it will actually convert those maps as well. And now there is a difference in data models and different kind of, although it converts that wire diagram, when you actually finish, you still have a number of activities that you'll want to complete. You want to verify. Even in the best case scenario, you still need to complete some testing on that. But it provides a really powerful kickstart.
Yep.
But we should have the right mindset that it is just providing that kickstart, which will hopefully deliver good value to you and accelerate that conversion, but it won't do it all for you.
Understood. So when you're doing the conversion, are there any best practices that you can follow from that?
Yeah, so a couple of things I'd probably mention. First one is make sure you're using the latest version of the tool.
Grant.
It is being updated regularly. We have a separate update process, if you like, an update site where you can pull down those updates immediately. So we have regular updates go up there. You can get them down easily into your toolkit. If you go to Eclipse, check for updates in your integration toolkit, that'll pull down the latest version. You get all the latest capabilities that are in that tool. So definitely use the latest version. The other thing I would say is try and focus on one logical integration at a time that you understand in WebSphere ESB. Bring that across. In IBM Integration Bus, the resulting application that the conversion tool produces will have in it the same levels of abstraction in terms of subflows. It will be layered in the same way as your WebSphere ESB integration was, and you should be able to correlate and understand what you've got in your IBM Integration Bus application. So understand it and look at the outcome of the tool. The tool will give you lots of information, as well as the application. It will give you information around tasks that you need to complete that conversion. So look at those, understand them. They link off to lots of other information in our knowledge center. So definitely work through that information to understand what you need to do to complete the conversion.
Fair enough. Are there any other tools that are relevant for conversion?
Sure. So the conversion tool obviously is one of the primary tools which people would look at when they start looking at WebSphere ESB conversion to IBM Integration Bus. However, it is worth realizing that Integration Bus itself provides a number of accelerators to actually accelerate the development process, just in general, for when you're creating applications. And one of the biggest points to just consider is the pattern capabilities, which are within Integration Bus. Now, within WebSphere ESB, there was also pattern capabilities, but though they didn't provide a mechanism really for creating your own patterns. So we provided some out of the box. You could use those to actually create instances of applications that you would run.
Yeah.
However, one common requirement was, can I create my own patterns? I have this particular requirement to receive a SOAP message, transform it, maybe log it, and then pass it on to the end service provider. I would like to actually create my own version of a pattern so that I can stamp those out, so that it's a lot easier, shall we say, for when I'm creating additional instances of that. Now, in Integration Bus, we have that capability within Pattern Explorer. And the purpose and why this is relevant from a WebSphere ESB point of view, what we do see is we have a number of customers who literally have hundreds of applications which are following the same pattern. And will continue to follow the same pattern moving forward. Now, if you use the conversion tool, that would convert your 200 applications and generate you 200 Integration Bus applications. And that's great. However, what you also want, if possible, is something that I can use moving forward. So what I would also like is to be able to stamp out new versions of those patterns as well. So actually, if you consider, instead of using the conversion tool, or maybe with the conversion tool, having a pattern as well, then that actually gives you something moving forward as well to actually simplify it. So I would really look at, as well as the conversion tool, have a look at patterns, see if they can actually accelerate the conversion, because you could just stamp those out by filling in a few points of variability and stamp those out that way. And then moving forward, you can then continue to use that pattern to actually create new ones. So it's kind of getting two things for just the one effort.
Fantastic. So the question then, when should you start this planning process?
Well, the answer is you should start now.
Okay.
We talked about the end of service date for WebSphere ESB, and it's coming up in 3 years' time. And you should definitely start planning your conversions now. But what we often recommend is start of that process is to start building your skills in IBM Integration Bus. We recommend start looking at IBM Integration Bus as a platform for your new development of your new integrations in order to build skills and build your infrastructure and prepare you to then do the conversion of your existing applications. So that's kind of what we recommend.
Okay, fair enough. And how long would a conversion take? Is that a fair question?
No, it's completely unfair, so I'm not going to answer.
I shall write it down and use it again. Thank you very much.
No, in all seriousness, it's a very common question, but is asked. And unfortunately, it does depend on the particular customer situation, as you'd expect. You can install IBM Integration Bus in 10 minutes, for instance. You can download, it's a very straightforward installation process to get going. So you can get going very quickly with Integration Bus. If you have, though, several hundreds, if not thousands of applications, which you need to convert, you'll then need to go through a degree of testing cycle. There's maybe internal processes that you would need to go through for configuring the relevant security, firewall checks, etc. In all honesty, actually, the biggest time frame sometimes are some of those internal considerations around getting everything set up and configured, rather than necessarily the technology of Integration Bus itself and the conversion activity from there. And we can actually address some of those actually with some of our cloud offerings, but that's a side conversation. But so to give people kind of an expectation, it can be days if you've got very small amount, or it can be measured in weeks if we've got more tens of applications, or months if we're looking at the higher end of those. But we have to be very careful that we understand what we mean by a conversion and what that's including. If it's including all the applications, then that can take a considerable amount of time if there's a large number.
Very good. Okay. So what's the one thing to keep in mind? The number one thing to keep in mind when doing the migration? What would you say?
Sure. So number one thing from my point of view would be actually the conversion tool is great and it does a lovely job at accelerating. However, the one thing to bear in mind is that when you're actually converting, the conversion is only as good as the starting point.
Okay.
We have seen in many aspects that people have created some applications which may not have been ideal in the WESB or ESB world, and then when we converted them to Integration Bus, they're not ideal from an Integration Bus. So I actually maybe consider this as an opportunity to consider what the best practices really would be. Okay. So what the best practices would be around Integration Bus. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to do a little bit of redesigning. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to create a pattern so that I actually can then reuse that moving forward. So try and look at this as an opportunity to actually simplify what you've got and actually drive improvements in the way you're doing integration logic.
Understood. So a more general question, the admin model in IIB, is it similar to WESB? What are the main differences?
So I can tell. Callum. So in IBM Integration Bus, the administration model is built around a number of tools that the administrator can use. There's a web UI for the administrator. They can administer their IBM Integration Bus applications and resources through that. But we also provide APIs that give you the same capability. So you can automate, you can have programmatic administration of your IBM Integration Bus resources that way. And there's also command line tools as well to enable you to script it. So in IBM Integration Bus, there are a lot of options in terms of administration. WESB was more built around the WAS model, so it was slightly different. You would have used the WAS tools for that. So.
Okay. So how does the monitoring of my application change in IIB? That's a question.
Sure. So from a monitoring point of view, there's actually IBM Integration Bus provides some really strong tools for you being able to actually monitor what's going on in your system, understand, and also use that actually as part of the debugging exercise as well. So within the web UI, what you can do is you get statistical information regarding the performance of each individual message flow, which is the kind of constructor unit, which is for your integration. And as well as that is similar to WebSphere ESB, how you had mediation primitives with WebSphere ESB, you have nodes in Integration Bus, and you wire those together as you did in WebSphere ESB. Is a similar construct. But from a monitoring point of view, the monitoring even goes down to those individual node level. And it will tell you, for instance, how long it took from a CPU point of view, how long it actually took waiting for additional, maybe for I/O, or maybe it was sending a web service request. It will tell you how many messages passed through there over a certain period of time, provides you with a wealth of information regarding that. So that's from a flow point of view.
Yeah.
You then also have the ability to actually have a look at resources and the resources which the overall system is taking. So you can have a look at what your JVM heap size is, for instance. You can see how many TCP connections there are, and that's considered resource monitoring. And you actually have far more information which is readily available and more importantly, consumable within an integration bus solution than you certainly had within WebSphere ESB. There was certainly similar kind of information under the covers which you could gather, but you needed a separate tool to kind of understand that. But that kind of leads on, because a lot of people actually want to actually do the monitoring at a solution level. So that would be not having to go into an integration bus, shall we say, UI, to actually see this monitoring information. They would like a central console to actually do that. And so, first of all of that information which is provided within the UI is available and is published to a topic, which can then be integrated either using Integration Bus itself or building your own integration to whatever monitoring solution that you would prefer to use. We also, of course, provide really deep integration with IBM Tivoli monitoring, so you can actually have that all integrated within your Tivoli solution, so you can see all of that same information that you are seeing on the individual integration node. You can then see within your Tivoli console. Right. You can start setting trigger points for if a certain error occurred or a certain event occurred, like it went over a certain threshold. You would start setting triggers to say, notify me or send out an email. So it's really, from an integration bus point of view, it really takes you from that beginning where you've just got your own integration node and you just want to monitor that, or you may be developing or doing initial testing, all of the way to complete end-to-end kind of solution level monitoring. So that's a very nice rounded solution.
Fantastic. So if I've got Java code with my mediations, what are the implications for conversion there?
Sure. So from a Java code point of view, there's really two types of Java code primarily. We'll say ones which will do integration logic within WebSphere ESB, and that could be within a Java primitive, custom mediation, or it could be in a Java component. So there are two different sets, but fundamentally they're doing the same thing. They will be acting on the message, there'll be some Java code there. And to tackle those ones first, what we're doing for those is we're trying to introduce and recommend that customers introduce a thin layer at the top, which abstract out the SDO, and which is service data object, and small service message object APIs, and any J2EE APIs, and abstract those out at the top. And then use standard Java technologies or principles to really then call down the further layer where your real business logic is. Okay. Then when you move to Integration Bus, you simply take that business logic and you replace the thin layer at the top and map that to the corresponding APIs which are exposed in Integration Bus. So that's one aspect, and so that's from the Java kind of integration code. Alex, do you want to explain?
The other place we see a lot of custom Java code in WebSphere ESB is in data handlers. So data handlers in WebSphere ESB were the way that you could write your own custom parsing and serializing of data on the wire, turn it into your logical data that the WebSphere ESB would process. IBM Integration Bus has a different solution to this problem. It doesn't require you to write custom code. We have a parser in IBM Integration Bus called the DFDL parser, Data Format Description Language, which is quite powerful. Parser comes in the box in IBM Integration Bus, and for that, you only have to write schemas, so they're a bit like XML schemas, but they describe your non-XML data, and you use those with this parser to parse and handle any kind of data. So that's what we recommend. We recommend you go away from custom code for that part of your solution, move towards using DFDL, which is a standard. So you can go out there and Google DFDL and find it. It's a standard from the Open Grid Forum, and you use that as your solution to handling your non-XML data. And that's quite transferable as well, because it's a technology that's not just in IBM Integration Bus. You'll find it in other IBM products and outside IBM too.
Marvellous. So are we ready for questions from Twitter, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, okay, we peer into the screen and ask us. Okay, so I hear that IB always needs a queue manager. Is this true? Is it true?
Is it true?
Is it true?
Is it a lie?
So, yeah. So the answer is no, not in version 10. So in version 10 of IBM Integration Bus, we broke that tight coupling between IBM Integration Bus and MQ. So it's no longer a requirement with IBM Integration Bus to have a queue manager for each broker, for each integration node. That's no longer a requirement. There are some capabilities that you might still want to use that with. Also, in version 10, we added support for client connections to MQ, which means that, again, you can have different topologies, which you couldn't have before with IBM Integration Bus. You can have multiple brokers, multiple integration nodes, talking to a single queue manager or a separate cluster of queue managers, so you can separate the two. That's a bit like what you could do in WESB with the golden topology, so it's kind of analogous. So you can start recreating those same topologies in IBM Integration Bus that you could in WESB.
Super. All right, we have one more question. We make use of the graphical map in WESB. How can we do this in IIB?
Okay, yeah, sure. So in WESB, you have that lovely graphical mapper, which the gentleman's mentioning, and within IBM Integration Bus, you have a similar graphical mapper. And actually, the conversion tool itself will automatically take those XSLT maps and actually convert those into the corresponding maps which are available in Integration Bus. So really kind of accelerating that conversion exercise from there. It is worth saying that the graphical mapper within Integration Bus does have many other features in addition to what was provided within WESB. So you can access, in the most recent version, you can access the global cache, which is provided, which is an in-memory cache of provided by extreme scale technology, so that you can store information off and then retrieve that based on key information. You can integrate with databases more fully, complete SQL queries, and complete integration at that level.
Yeah, so I was just going to mention, they are actually using the same underlying technology, which makes the conversion story really good in that case. And mapping is the common way we saw people doing transformation in WESB, and the same applies in IBM Integration Bus. It's very much a recommended way of doing transformations.
Fantastic. So that's all the questions that has presented us on Twitter. So I say thank you guys very much for joining us today, and a quick plug for these awesome surroundings, particularly to our business partners. If you've got a solution, it's IBM technology, get in contact with us. We can help. This stuff is free for you to use. So get in contact. And gents, we've got a call at 11:30. So we'll close one down, and see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.